Hey, seventh graders, it's me, Mr. Allard, again with one of our flip lessons. You should have out your Industrial Revolution causes and effects sheet. All right, as we go through, we're going to fill in the blanks with our notes. Anything that's bold and underlined on your notes is going to go into your note sheet. All right, here we go. First thing we're going to talk about with the Industrial Revolution is what kind of caused it. All right, the Industrial Revolution, we're going to argue, kind of stemmed from the Erie Canal, but it was kind of already happening during this time period. One of the big things that's going to cause this to happen is going to be the Embargo Act. What we do kind of not so smart is the Embargo Act. We're having some problems with Britain and France stealing our trade ships, so President Jefferson, who was the president in 1807, decides we're going to cut off all trade for Europe. Negative effect is that's going to be the value of our imports is going to fall. There's the bell. Is going to fall dramatically, meaning we're going to have some problems with trade. We're basically going to have no trade. So, in order to get the stuff that we want, we're going to have to start making it. We can't rely on England. We cannot rely on England. So, one of the positive impacts of the Embargo Act is going to be we have to start making American-made products. But one of the negative impacts about this is it's going to take some time to get that. So for a while, our economy is doing pretty poorly. But if we cut off trade, that means we have to start making our own things and making our own factories. The Embargo Act is going to kind of also lead us into the War of 1812 because that's going to cause some issues, some more issues between Britain and the United States. And we're going to wind up going to war. And during war, obviously, one of our biggest trading partners is England. They're not going to want to trade with us anymore, and they're also going to want to stop us from trading with other countries. So we're not going to be able to rely on trade from other countries during this time period. So from 1812 to 1814, we're going through all those different issues. We're going through all those different issues of war. We need to be able to obviously still supply the war, so we're relying on our own factories again to kind of get up and running to supply guns and ammunition and uniforms and things like that for our soldiers. Inventions. This is also going to be a time of many inventions, which we're probably going to talk about a little bit more on Wednesday. These inventions are going to be things like the cotton gin, the steamboat, the spinning jenny, our factory system, our interchangeable parts are all going to go hand in hand to allow us to build more factories and then use factories to make these things. If we're making more of stuff, we also have to be able to ship that stuff. So the steamboat is going to help us in that way. The spinning jenny is going to help us make all the cloth, all the cotton that we're getting from the cotton gin into cloth to be able to produce clothing and things of that nature. So as we go, what you're going to see is there's going to be a lot of kind of this happening with all the stuff are causes, but they're also kind of effects at the same time. The National Bank. This was kind of way back when we think we talked about this with Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. Hamilton's kind of big force was to use this national bank. What the bank is going to allow people to do is it's going to give them capital, meaning it's going to give them the money to back their business. Not a lot of people are walking around with the money needed to start a business in the early 1800s, let alone today. So what do? They have to go and they get a bank loan. So they get their bank loan. They're going to have the money to be able to produce the factories, to build their trade networks, and hopefully use. Got some music. Sorry, I had a little bit of music interruption there, and the bell. Lots of stuff going on this morning. But the National Bank basically is going to allow people to raise capital to be able to fund their projects and to grow their business to meet the needs of the economy. What is this going to lead to effects? Well, the big effects is we're going to have urbanization. It's going to grow because people are going to move closer to jobs. Most of the mills and factories are going to be located near cities. Why are they going to be located near cities? Well, number one, most cities during this time period are located near some water source. They're using that water source like a mill or a factory. They're using that water to power their factory. So that's one reason. Number two, we're building a bunch of canals. We're building a bunch of roads. We're building a bunch of different transportation networks and things like that. What do they go through? They're not going through the podunk towns in the middle of nowhere. They're going through big cities. They're going through Philadelphia. They're going through New York. They're going through Pittsburgh. So not only are the factories going to be there because their power source is going to be there, they're also going to be able to ship their goods from those cities, which means the factories are going to be there, which people are going to move there for their jobs, because this is not an era where you are going to commute. If the fastest transportation is moving 5 miles per hour, you cannot live 30, 40, 50 an hour minutes or an hour away from your work and expect to be able to get there. Expansion of transportation system. We talked about this kind of as a cause. It's also an effect. As we build up our industrialization, we're going to need to ship all of those goods better and more efficiently. So we're going to see the steamboat, we're going to see the canal, we're going to see the turnpikes, we're going to see a national road being built. On the flip side, that could also be spurring urbanization because, or industrialization, because now we have the ability to ship those goods. So now those factories can produce more and more and more and more and more to allow those goods to be shipped across the country. Economic growth of the United States is going to happen kind of unevenly, or I shouldn't say unevenly. It's going to happen differently. In the north, what you're going to see is the growth of factories and mills. All right. Again, way back to the beginning of this unit. Why? Geography. Not a lot of farmland up in the north, so you're going to see factories and mills. Down in the south, where we have the farmland, we have the geographical conditions to grow cash crops, you're going to see cotton plantations grow throughout the South. And a big main reason for that is going to be the cotton gin. And we're going to kind of talk about that into the later on in the week. Labor conditions and issues, you guys have covered this a lot with Liddy. The book really delves into those issues, but number one big issue is child labor. All right, if you kids at your age were most likely working in a factory, not likely going to be in school. They liked having those little hands to get into the machines, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Long hours, 12 to 16 hours a day. You're working 6 days a week, sometimes even including Sunday, depending on if you've met your requirements for the day. There's going to be really, really poor health conditions in these factories. They're going to be very dimly lit. There's going to be a lot of dust, a lot of stuff that can get in your lungs and cause a lot of different ailments there. And slave labor, as you can see from the chart, is going to greatly increase. We're going to go from, maybe 4.3 million slaves, it looks like there in 1800 or 400,000 slaves, looks like there in 1800 to over 3.4 million by the 1860s. And you can see as the slave production goes, or as the amount of slaves go up, cotton production is also going to increase as well. Well, there's our flip lesson for tonight. If you have any questions, hit me up on Schoology, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.